Hello, hi, Janny here from jannyfrank.com, and I just thought I'd pop on and make a really quick video for you about vulnerability hangovers for artists, particularly really kind of focusing on the experience of creative people when you put your work out there. And I'm thinking about that a lot this week because I've launched my Patreon page, which is somewhere that people who follow my videos and download my resources and enjoy what I do can support me financially with a regular monthly amount. And having put that out there on Thursday, and then having decided that I was going to give the first 10 people who signed up original paintings, post them to them. So I've been doing some paintings, putting a lot of paintings online, putting out the Patreon, and so hugely vulnerable, putting yourself out there, putting your work out there, where it can be criticised, where it can be rejected, where it can be ignored, which is what mostly happens to artists, to be fair. And I thought it'd be really good to talk about, you know, I did definitely wake up, well, the vulnerability hangover started to hit yesterday afternoon, and sort of really woke up this morning very much in the feeling that I had put myself out there in an uncomfortable way, and that you know, I needed to do some work around that. Now, what I'm going to say might really surprise you, but my first reaction was that I need to take advantage of how I'm feeling right at the moment. So I'm feeling kind of wobbly, vulnerable, fearful, and really in where I call the centre of the spiral. So any of you who've been following me, you can see I've got a spiral behind me on the wall. Anyone who's been following me for a while will know that I use a technique that I've developed called journey spiral, which is a way of looking at your creativity, your life experience, and how you approach projects, how you do everything really, as a natural process. And I represent this natural process as a spiral. So the outside of the spiral is where we're sharing with the world. Going into the spiral is kind of where we're harvesting and pulling in the rewards for our work. The centre of the spiral is that dark place where you might feel wobbly, you might feel introspective, you might have a motorcycle that makes loads of noise. The centre of the spiral is where you feel really wobbly, really vulnerable, really where I am now. And then coming out of the spiral is springtime, so it's where you're sort of growing and creating your work to actually come out and put it out there into the world. And I'm running an e-course at the moment called Spring into Creativity, where we really are looking at that spring part of the cycle, which is loads of fun, and kind of navigating all of the fun and games of the spring part of the cycle, because it's very much about stepping into discomfort, because growth doesn't happen without danger and discomfort. Unfortunately, wouldn't it be nice if it did? We could just eat chocolate and grow. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that kind of vulnerable place in the centre of the spiral, or almost as you're kind of emerging out of it, and how to take care of yourself and how to take advantage of your vulnerability hangover. And I get the phrase vulnerability hangover from a book called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. I recommend it. It's a very good book. She talks about how you feel when you've put yourself out there in an uncomfortable way, and she talks about it in very positive terms. So I've done some exploration about how I manage a vulnerability hangover. So there's a real temptation to just motor through it. There's a real temptation to just go, no, I'm stupid to feel this way. And very often encouraging friends around you might say, oh, but your work's great, don't worry about it, you just need to just not worry. But it is really natural and normal to feel a sense of fear and wobbliness and abject terror, frankly, when you've put your work out there. So it's fine to feel that way, and there's a lot of treasure in the centre of that spiral. So that little dark winter bit, that little middle of the spiral where you're inside going, ew, there's a lot of treasure there. So the first thing I always recommend, anything's going on in your life at all, good stuff, bad stuff, whatever's happening, you need one of these. Doesn't have to look just like this, but you have to admit this is a very nice colour. You have to admit. You need a journal. Journaling is by far and away the most valuable thing I can recommend to anybody. And if you take nothing else away from all of my stuff, starting a journal, however you want to do it. You can do it visually, you can use it as a scrapbook, you could do an electronic journal, you can just write, just whatever works, whatever size, whatever style of journal works for you. Just use a journal, because you can sit down and have a conversation with yourself in your journal. So the first thing I will do if I'm having a wobble is sit down with my journal and ask myself some questions. How am I feeling right now? What can I learn from this? What am I afraid of? And just having that kind of loving conversation with yourself in your journal is so, so important. So for a vulnerability hangover, I do recommend not just motoring through it. I recommend feeling the feelings. We're really taught to ignore our feelings. And in the self-help and new age world, there is certain danger of sort of positive thinking being this thing that you have to do, and you're not allowed to feel your negative feelings. And I think that's really harmful, because I think in those negative feelings actually some really, really useful insights, learning, growth. That's the center of the spiral. It's that bit there. There it is, where you're right in the dark. You're right in the dark, and you can't see where you're going, and you may be fearful, and you may feel very isolated in that space. And I think there's a lot of magic in that space, as long as you don't get stuck there. You don't want to stay. You're not supposed to sit in the center of the spiral. You're supposed to keep moving. So yeah, spend some time with your journal. The other thing is, if you are having vulnerability hangover, you have permission to step away from the thing that you've done. So for instance, my Patreon page is up now, but I have switched off notifications. I am not looking at it. I'm not looking if anyone signs up, because I know that, like anything, it takes a little while for these things to take off. I'm not going to get a huge flurry. It's going to take a while to build, but in these very early stages, a bit like if you've just planted a seed that's just started germinating, but you kind of keep digging it up, it's not going to work. It's actually going to kill it. So stepping away from the thing. So if you've just given a sort of speech, a public talk, maybe step out of the online space where people might be commenting on that. If you've just put a blog post out that really, really scares you and you're feeling incredibly vulnerable, go aside with your journal, come offline, don't look at your comments. You have permission to do whatever you need to do to recoup in that space in the center of the spiral. And in the center of the spiral, my biggest piece of advice is be with yourself. Don't go looking for other people to kind of make you not be in the center of the spiral, because that's not how that works. So do some journaling, step away from the place where you feel vulnerable, step back. You don't have to like leave it forever, but you know, if you've just put a piece of artwork out on the internet, you've just launched your Etsy shop, you've just done a talk, you've just put a blog post out there, and you're feeling really terrified, you have permission to just step back from it for a day or so and just not check comments, not check responses, not keep plugging at it. Just step back. You can, because if you do that and you do your self-care work in your journal and your self-inquiry, and you really sit with your feelings, you will be fine. You will be fine to go back to it. But if you keep motoring, trying to motor through it, try and force through it, punch through those feelings, you won't find it easy. You'll in fact very likely give up. So yeah, get your journal, step away if you need to. And the other thing is, you know, just do something completely different. So break the pattern of panicking about the thing by just take yourself out, have a walk, go and hang out with some people who don't want to talk about the thing that you're doing, watch something funny, you know, read a book, go and lie in your hammock, go garden, anything to do with touching the earth, walking, gardening, spending time in nature is just magic, really. That will ground you. It'll bring you out of your head and this sort of, and bring you into the real world. And just look after yourself, you know, always. It comes down to basics. Just make sure you're drinking enough water, you're eating regularly, you're getting yourself out the house. These really basic things. Take a shower, make your bed, get dressed. Don't sit around in your jimmy jams. Caftan doesn't count as jammies, okay? Just saying. So those are the things I would suggest doing. Get your journal out, do some self-inquiry, talk to yourself in a loving way about how you're feeling. Step back from the place where you've put yourself out. Just give yourself a little bit of space and look after yourself. break the pattern, go out and do something different, go and do something fun, and stick to the basics of care for your body. Just the very basics: drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, eating enough. It sounds so silly to say, but oh, we all forget it. I forget it. I bet anything you forget it. So yeah, that's it. That's my vulnerability hangover cure. Does not involve vodka or tomato juice. Thanks very much for watching. Please do comment. Tell me how you found this video. And yeah, don't forget to come over to jannyfrank.com, where there are lots and lots more resources for your creative being. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to help me do more, please pop over to my Patreon page. I shall stick the link underneath, where you can give as little as $3 a month to fund my expenses for putting this stuff out there on the internet and help me make more of these sort of things if you find them useful. Thanks for watching. Bye.